devil's advocate question, because I kind of know the answer, but I want to throw it out there to hear your take on it. Is why can't I publish the world's best book, make sure that's up and looking great, and then over the however many next years I'm going to be going out and about shouting about the other books I'm going to write, start talking, start talking about, look at this wonderful book. There's not that many people here this week, next week, but a year from now, 2 years from now, one day my readers will come. Why is that not a good way to proceed? Because I'm assuming it's not, but I want to know why it's not.
Well, that really is going to depend on what your goals are. And I was recently talking to a writer, a journalist about this, and something we sort of stumbled on in our conversation was that not every author wants to, I don't want to say wants to be successful, because obviously everybody wants to be successful in some capacity. But I have encountered that unicorn of authors who is just like, I just write because I like it, and I just want to release my books, and whoever, comes across them does, and I hope they enjoy them. But, if I have 10 readers or 10,000 readers, it sort of makes no difference to me. I do this because it's something I love. And I'm like, okay, like more power to you. Like, that's awesome. I think if you have something that you're that passionate about and that's sort of your attitude towards it, then sure. And maybe by the chances of the fates, something great will happen, but probably not, because discoverability is a huge issue in books right now. There are more books being released right now and over the past several years than ever before. Like, between the self-published books and the traditionally published books in, I think, 2018, there were over 2 million books published that year. It's, again, my math, failures are showing, but like, it's like something like a book every like 10 minutes is being published. And that, spans the gamut from your major New York Times bestsellers, who are a very, very small piece of that pie, to lots of self-published ebook only projects, to stuff in the middle. So if you're just going to let your product like languish on Amazon or online retailers, nobody is ever going to find you back there. It's basically like hanging out in a super crowded airport back when, those were a thing. I don't know if we'll ever see a super crowded airport again. But it's like hanging out at a super crowded airport in like a dark, corridor, like just sort of sitting with your head down and like hoping that someone comes and like taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, your flight's boarding. That's not going to happen. No one's going to find you. You're just going to sit there until, I don't know what happens to you. Security kicks you out. But, there are too many books that, unless by some absolute miracle, someone buys your book, firstly, someone finds your book, and then they buy it, and then they actually read it. And those are like 3 steps that are very unlikely to happen at that point. But presuming all of those steps happen, and then the 4th step is they read it, and then they tell people about it, and they're like super influential, and people listen to them. So this is basically like you might as well just play the Powerball, lottery, because it's more likely that you will win that than that will happen. You could do things like write the book and write a great book and categorize it correctly on Amazon and set the pricing competitively, and all of that stuff is gonna help, maybe, but the competition is fierce for readers' attention, and there are only so many books that readers can read. And I'm constantly astounded by many of the reviewers and readers and influencers I work with who read like 5 books a week, and I have no idea how they do it. I feel like very accomplished if I read one book a week. So I'm like, I am such a fast reader and so smart. But those are super voracious readers. So those people do exist. But even for them, that nowhere near comes close to the sheer volume of books that are being released. So you have to do something to find your audience. And I'm not saying that it needs to be traditional earned PR and media. And there are many, many things that authors can do independently that don't cost a penny to get the word out about their books. PR is just one of them. So if you need to hear me talk more about why that's a really terrible idea, I would be happy to talk you off the ledge at any time. So please go to smithpublicity.com and find my email. And
go ahead and send Sarah your best arguments for why it will happen this one time for you. And if she has time, she sounds pretty busy, but if she has time, she'll shoot them down and give you fresh insight as to why you're better off playing the Powerball. I love that. That was very specific, very much. If that doesn't get the message through, I don't think anything will.